Hey guys, we're here at San Diego Comic-Con with the creators of BRZRKR. We've got Matt Kindt here, Keanu Reeves, and Rob Garney. I want to ask you right out of the gate here, it's such a staggering success for this comic. It feels like an empire at this point, and it's been such a short time frame. What's it been like for you to have it explode the way it has, but also to have all these new opportunities for movies, anime, and just announced today, a novel?
Yeah, I think it's pretty extraordinary for all of us, and a really special circumstance. I mean, it's cool to have, I think, our work appreciated, and Boom Studios kind of trying to give us opportunities to continue telling BRZRKR stories.
We had our head down, like working on the issues, you know, like there's 12 issues, so I feel like we're still like on 12. So we've had our head down, and then you look up, all this other stuff is happening, which is amazing, and which is cool to see something like personal and like kind of small sort of blow up into something huge.
It's like lightning in a bottle, I think. You know, there's certain things that happen that you can't predict them. You know, you don't control it, but when it happens, you have to just sort of surf it. You know, and that's what this has been like, at least for me. I'm speaking for myself, and you just sort of surf it like a wave, like you do everything in life. And so, just like B's birth was like lightning bolt from the sky, this thing happened just like that. So that's what I think of it. Yeah.
Keanu, when you were coming up with the idea for this, was there any part of it, because you're so open to collaboration, you're so open to lending it to these different mediums, that you're not precious and you're not like guarded about any of it, but is there a part of it that you're like feel really protective when it comes to other people's ideas, but are there elements of B that you're like feel really steadfast about?
Yeah, one of the terms that has come up is treating the comic book as canon, and then what from that canon becomes a rule. So for me, really, with any other storyteller, I just say, you know, one of the rules is Unite or B or the BRZRKR, his origin story has to stay the same, and who he is as a character stays the same.
Yeah, no, I think the comic is like the core thing, and then spin it out in different ways. Like we try to make the best comic book version, right? So like it can't be really replicated in another medium, but like take that and do the best anime version, do the best movie version, you know, do the best novelization based on like those core. There are certain things that we don't want to change, but then do the best version of that in another art form.
How much have you guys spent about thinking about being immortal? Now, we've seen movies where there are vampires who've been alive for maybe 100 years or a couple hundred years, and I'm always like, I'll give that a try. They say it sucks, but yeah, I'm willing to test it. But 80,000 years is so long, and like it seems like something you could really dwell on and like find the curse in, you know, like as far as the character of B and how long that B's been around.
Yeah, one of the things about that was, you know, when we spoke, it was like, I didn't want the character to be a tired, world-weary vampire. And I wanted to keep, you know, half the characters human. And I didn't want him to lose his humanity in the storytelling that we were doing. Like, he still loves people, you know. He's actually trying to get in touch with his human side. He doesn't want the curse of violence, you know, and some aspect of his violence is he could be a hero, he could be a savior. But the flip side of that is he's a murderer. And I think B has lived long enough to have seen both sides of that. And he's got shame and guilt and regret. And anyone he's ever loved has died. But I didn't want him to be bitter or, you know, like, oh, humanity, you know, and so above them, you know, he's firmly planted on the ground.
Yeah, that's one of the things you told me early on. Was like, oh, I think I asked you, I was like, does he want to die? You're like, he doesn't want to die. He wants to be able to die, which is like a fine line, but it's a big difference, you know, to be able to live your life and know that like every day counts rather than like every day is forever.
Right.
It doesn't. Those days don't have the same meaning, you know, if they're never ending.
I know the movie is being written right now by Mattson Tomlin, and like as far as something, obviously the comic book is a very specific medium where you're able to like go wild with all sorts of carnage and so forth. Do you have any idea of like any conversations been happening about what the content might be for the Netflix film and how far it can go as far as the violence, or are you just sort of treating it like it's a different packaging?
In terms of the violence, I think it's part of it is a hyper reality, and I know that for me, looking to how we could tell the story of violence, which is the human story of violence, was can we depict it in one way where we have the hyper reality and maybe it's kind of cool looking, but then how can we, in the case of BRZRKR, as he's kind of going through his process of discovery, and with the protocols that he's under, get sensitized to it in a different way. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully in the film, having a moment with the audience to be like, oh, what I thought was cool actually looks horror, oh, that's what that is, and kind of play with that, which I think we can do in the film version.
And what can you say about the novel that was announced as far as like the type of story you wanted to tell for, like, is it sort of a continuation of what you're doing in the comic book, or is it like looking back, or?
Yeah, it's in speaking with the author, one of their questions was, how much do you want to stick to the comic book and how much can I play in the sand? And I said, well, okay, here's the bucket, but it's your beach. The bucket being the rules or the canon of the character, but you can play. They were like, great. They were really excited by that. So I've seen an outline, but so it's really, it's the author who's going to cook that up. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And for all the news and happenings here at Comic-Con, stay tuned to IGN.